paper. Our public safety, thank you, which is the police department, fire department, emergency management, harbor master. We have some revolving funds, which include Plymouth County Outreach, Fire Local Hazardous Waste, Fire Cedarville Community Room, Fire Safety and Prevention, Fire Alarm Service, State Boat Ramp, and Shellfish Upweller. In addition to that, we have our Energy and Environment Department and the revolving funds for that, which are the Plymouth Beach, CPA Conservation Land Revolving, and electric vehicle charging. So we will be going in order. I would like to just make one statement. What we will do is I will have the department head come up, make a brief statement about the budget, and then very much like our Advisory and Finance Committee meetings, the members will, I'll call upon members who have questions. They can then have follow-up questions, and we'll go from there. We will have motions on the budget, any amendments, second, and then we will discuss it within the committee. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, so let's begin. Chief Flynn? Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. We'll do roll call first. I don't have my alphabetical order list, but that's okay. Brian Dunn?
Here.
Bruce Howard?
Here.
Joseph Lally?
Here.
Lorenzo Pizarro?
Here.
I am here. And Molly O'Connor, I do not believe is going to be here tonight. So we are all here. And do we have any public comment? Okay, seeing none in the audience, seeing none on Zoom, we will move on to our first item on the agenda, and that would be police, and that would be Chief Flynn. Welcome.
Good afternoon. It is. It's on. So I'm here to present my proposed budget for the upcoming fiscal year. You will see there are some increases on various lines here. Mainly has to do with the contractual requirements of the recently ratified collective bargaining agreements. There are also some increases you'll see in training and other projected increases from certain vendors and suppliers that we use on a yearly basis. In addition, you'll also see an increase in our department equipment line. That's to do with the increase in the cost of replacing our vehicle fleet for an overall 4% increase from last year. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, do we have any questions? Mr. Dunn?
And just last year, you touched on the co-response program.
Right.
And I know we put additional funding, I think, recently. Is that funded at the level it needs to be, and is it still going as well as it was last year?
It's taken off. The money that you provided with me last year is still intact. It was never used. That was there in it as a contingency fund in case CFS was not able to reclaim any money through insurance claims. this was to make up for their loss, and we haven't had to touch that program yet. We just did, I just submitted my annual report to the town clerk, and we do make a statement in there regarding the co-response program. Off the top of my head, I don't recall the number of people that we service, but our number of arrests are down. Our number of hands-on incidents with people in crisis were only 7 last year, which is it's a huge boon to the program, and we're just gonna keep on with the program.
Awesome, thank you.
Do we have any other questions? I'm sorry, Mr. Lally?
Chief, can you just briefly tell us what's driving the increase behind supplies and materials? I think it was a 43% increase.
Sure.
It's on page, well,
Yeah,
4.
I have some notes in my binder
Oh,
here
okay,
that
fine.
kind of explains that. So, the big portion of that is we're increasing our training as far as the firearms. We're moving that to twice a year now. That's always something I've always wanted to do. It maintains proficiency of the officers and reduces liability. God forbid we have to use our firearms in the course of our duties. We do have a lease range now, at the Plymouth Rod and Gun Club, that we can use anytime we want. So that's one of the big things, is that almost $43,000 in ammunition increases.
Okay.
We are gonna have a number of retirements this year, more than I like to admit. A lot of years of experience will be going out the door, so we also have to prepare for those, their equipment, uniforms, and whatnot. And those are the biggest part of our train. It's mostly associated with the training.
All right, thank you. Is it okay to move the police budget?
Yes, and do I have a motion?
Yes, you do. I move that we approve the police budget as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, we'll move on to the roll. Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Lally?
Yes?
Mr. Pizarro?
Yes.
Thank you.
I got it.
Myself, yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Lally. And we can move on to the fire.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You guys ready?
I'm getting there.
All right. So thank you for allowing me to stand before you today and talk about the fire department budget. I know when we start talking about especially public safety budgets and everything, they tend to be a little bit larger than some of the other budgets that the committees will review. So rather than going line by line or getting too deep into it, I'm going to hit some of the high points, some of the greater increases that I saw within the budget that I'm sure you might have some questions on. And also some parts of the budget that just, I think, warrant some further explanation. So when we look at the overall budget, I believe we're coming in just over at about 7% of an increase in its entirety. Like many of the other budgets that will be reviewed during this process, the main driver of that is personnel services. And the driver of those increases are the recent CBA agreements with the unions. There was an increase in the overtime budget, and that, again, is like Chief Flynn, due to increased training. We're recognizing a greater mission. It seems to further expand within the fire service. One of the biggest changes is the ASHA training, the active shooter hostile event type of training. And we've started a partnership with the police department to do hands-on real-time training with Louisiana State University, which is a FEMA contractor. They come in, they do some incredible training, and then we do some actual live events. And when I tell you the realism of this training, it's incredible. The hands-on, I don't want to get too into the weeds, but the realism of what they do with the victims and, you know, how they portray the event. It's really good training, and it also is an opportunity for us to work hand in hand with the police department and EMS, all as one group working together to solve a problem. So not only is this going to help us with ASHA training, but it helps us in general, just building a better partnership. So we felt like that was definitely a much needed increase to make sure that we were hitting those marks and we could do that training, not more than just once a year. We'd like to do it twice a year, and this will allow us to continue that program. We had a decrease in the communications line item, and that decrease was because we moved the Purvis system maintenance. So that's the station notification systems that is being installed as we speak in all of the 7 fire stations. And IT took over that portion because it's really a software update type of based expense. So we felt it was better if it stayed over in IT where it belongs. So that decreased that line item. And we had an increase in technical services, and that was driven by Tango Tango. Tango Tango is a radio over IP system so that we can download a program to cell phones and communicate through our radio system over our cell phones. Kind of like Nextel, except now we can actually directly tie into our portable radio systems as well. So that was a little bit of an increase on that. Supplies and materials, 100% increase. That was a small light item that we really haven't done a lot of increases with, but the increase that really drove that is the American flag. So we have American flags that fly over every one of our stations. We also have ceremonial flags that we buy for certain events during certain times of the year. And then also it's part of a ceremony that we do when we have a member that retires after a number of years of service. We have a ceremony where we bring that flag down that flew over the station where that individual worked, and we present that to them as a keepsake for their memento of their career. So that increase is there. And I think stuff like that's important. You got to recognize, you know, people that have dedicated their lives to this type of work, and I think that's a small way to do that. And then over on the I'm not capturing which one that is from. Stand by 1 second, please. Is that the right one? Yep, information technology supplies. So that, yeah, information technology supplies, right up your alley, right? So with this, the major increase with that was a software called CrewSense, and that blends in with our records management system, Red Alert. And what that's going to allow us to do is to keep better accountability of people's time off, how they report their time off, request time off. It also helps in the hiring process of people to backfill those positions to make sure that we have the proper amount of staffing on hand at any given day. It helps keep track of all that. Currently, we do it by a book. And, you know, the book gets messed up, and there's a controversy with the book, and who got, you know, this and that, and who didn't work, who worked. So this is going to be able to streamline that. And it's also going to reduce the amount of man hours, personnel hours that our shift commanders use for the hiring process. So it should help us be a little bit more efficient on that end of it, so we can get that shift commander out of the office and out into the street and out to the stations where he's going to be able to function a lot better. And then the other increase is batteries. Batteries have gone up immensely and everything takes a battery. So, you know, our defibrillators, even our extrication tools all run off of batteries. And with those increases, we have to come up with solutions for that. Vehicle maintenance supplies. We did increase that. Across the board, you'll see that there's a pretty standard 7% increase on a lot of the line items, and that's really just inflation, the cost of goods, what we can get. We're seeing, you know, anywhere between a 5% to sometimes a 12, 15, or 18% in costs. So we looked at each individual line item and looked at our past experience and just built it off of that. The vehicle maintenance is our outside maintenance fund, and that's when we have to send our apparatus out to a specialist, like transmission repair or anything like that, that we're not going to be able to do in-house with our mechanics. And then special operations, we have a $6,000 item that was added in there, and that misspelled, but it's supposed to be lithium-ion mitigation program and resources. So this is a new and emerging risk and problem that we're having in the fire service with these lithium-ion batteries. I told you just a little while ago that we need them to run everything. Well, so does everybody else, and it's causing a problem when these fail. They fail in a very destructive way, a very dangerous way. So we've developed a protocol using best practices on how to mitigate some of those risks. What do we do with a problem battery? How we take it apart? How do we store it? What do we do with it? And that's why that line item is in there. And we had a reduction of a little over 11% in air packs. And if you remember, last year we were awarded over $800,000 from FEMA to replace our air packs, the packs that we wear to go into hazardous environments. The nice part about these new packs is they come with a pretty robust warranty. So any typical wear and tear maintenance that we need to do on that, we can send out, and it's part of the warranty program for the life of the pack. So that actually was a huge bonus when we got those new packs. There's still going to be some items that we're going to be responsible for and replace, but the general operation, we were able to reduce that line item. And then our departmental equipment, that was driven mainly in an increase to help maintain our fire stations, some custodial, different maintenance items come up that we're going to take care of in-house, and that allows us to do that. And also the turnout gear replacement program that we have in place. So the turnout gear, the protective gear that the firefighters wear, they age out after 10 years and also just from use. So with that program, we can kind of forecast out when we need to replace these. They don't usually make it 10 years. So we're replacing them fairly often. We do inspections of that gear twice a year at a minimum, and it's done every day that they're on shift. So we get reports, and we can kind of figure out what's going to age out, what we're going to have to take offline. So that's basically the increases that you're going to see on that. And I'm here for any questions.
Mr. Dunn?
I'm gonna ask the same question I ask every year. How's the maintenance on the stations going? How's the construction going? I mean, West Plymouth looks great, but just how's everything going on that?
So I really do feel like we're one of the more fortunate fire departments that the town has recognized the need to do some pretty substantial work to our fire stations. Mr. Lally is also part of our meetings with wearing his other hat. And Station 2, absolutely. Great facility. We're having some great luck with it. We just went through our 1-year anniversary with that station, and working through some punch lists. And to be honest with you, the punch list items that we came back with, nothing too crazy at all. The building is holding up very well. And again, with that departmental equipment, that gives us a little bit of leeway so that, the facilities is going to take care of a lot of the major work, but we're going to have some funding to be able to maintain some of the smaller stuff and also get some custodial in there. It's a big building, so we can get them in there from time to time to help us with some of the more in-depth cleaning.
Yeah, I just remember touring those stations after the North Plymouth floor failed and going to some of those stations, and I'm
Yeah.
glad that there's some progress being made because they were atrocious, honestly, back then, so.
100%. So we have Station 5, we're back in there. We still have some work to do. There's a lot of exterior work that needs to get done. But we do have them back in there. The trailer is gone. It's actually over at the Chief's gun range. So that's gonna hopefully serve him well over there. But for the first time in 4.5 years, I'd say, we're not living in trailers. So exactly. So that's a good thing. Our next, we have our eyes on the next part of that article that came out. The 3-station article would be Station 4. So that's our next focus item that we'll be looking to in the future.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Lally?
Chief, I noticed there was no vacancy give-back line in your budget. May I infer that you're fairly well fully staffed?
Currently, and I'm sure that, I know that we have some retirements on the horizon, and, not on the same quite scale as the chief. We do see vacancies pop up that we weren't expecting, where typically people have taken this job and they've done the job and they do it throughout, as a career for 30 years plus. We're seeing people come in, they do it for a couple of years and they decide they're gonna go do something else. So we never really know what comes across the horizon, but currently today, we're in good shape.
Okay, and could you speak a little bit to the departmental equipment increase and also the implications of the select board reduction to 385 from 402?
Increase or decrease?
It was an increase of 25.9% in the budget I have.
Yeah, so the departmental equipment that, last year we had to purchase 20 sets of turnout gear. This year we're gonna have to purchase 29 sets of turnout gear. Each set of turnout gear, Deputy, can you help me out on that? We're just shy of, I think, $4,000 per. So it's a big driver, and that's
It's turnout gear, thank you.
Yeah, that's gonna vary from year to year.
Thank you. I have just a couple of basic questions, not really about the budget so much. The Tango equipment, if we have a power outage, I know the cell towers aren't great. So how is that going to affect your communications?
So the Tango would be affected by that, but it's not our primary communications.
Okay.
This is more like a special event. It also is good for situational awareness. So our goal is that we can distribute this out to our staff. We can even distribute it out so it's not two-way, it's just one way. They can receive the information, like a scanner, having a scanner at home. And what we're hoping is we're gonna get more engagement from some of our off-duty members so that if we do have a large-scale incident, they can tune in, hear the radio traffic, understand what's going on, and when they get the recall, hopefully we can get some more people to come back and give us a hand.
Okay. And the other one was the lithium battery. So you spoke about that, and you spoke about what you're going to do about it, what you're going to do with them, dispose of them. For the general public, what do you recommend they do with theirs? And do you see a program on the horizon for the town to assist in that?
So it's a work in progress, and I think a program for the town, I know Brockton's looking at a partnership with one of their vendors that they have in town, that they're gonna be able to take some of these batteries. But, your typical battery end of life, need to turn it in. I believe Best Buy has a drop-off box where you can drop those batteries off. And I believe if you call the town's waste disposal
The
division,
hazardous.
they can also point you into a direction of where you can drop them off, whether it's a specific collection day or a drop-off location.
Okay. And just one other question. I know the county, in the county's budget, they have fire training in their budget. Do you take advantage of that at all, or is that something that is made available to you?
So it's through, there's a county training council. I don't believe it gets some funding from the county itself, but the county training council does offer some training from time to time, and our members have taken advantage of that, yes.
Okay. And that's all I have. Are there any other questions? Okay, can I have a motion on the fire department budget?
So moved.
And do I have a second? Mr. Lally seconds. Let's do a roll call. Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Pizarro?
Yes.
Mr. Lally, sorry.
Yes.
And I'm yes as well. It is unanimous.
Excellent.
Thank you. And we will be calling you back up for the revolving fund.
Sure.
If you don't
What's your
mind.
next item?
It is emergency management.
Emergency management.
Okay.
Is that you as well?
I'll stay up here as well, and I have my emergency management director, Chris Horvath, that can answer any specific questions.
Okay.
My budget doesn't require a big binder like theirs do.
I have a one-pager for him.
Oh, you haven't seen a binder? This is a binder.
I'm in awe.
Okay.
So,
I'm sorry, can you just introduce yourself?
My name is Christian Horvath, Director of Emergency Management.
Thank you.
So with emergency management budget line item, the major driver of this budget is the town's 911 system. So we last year contracted with the Plymouth County Sheriff's Department to open up the Plymouth Emergency Communication Center, which is a dedicated communication center over at the Plymouth County's Communication Center just for the town of Plymouth. It is a partnership between the fire department, the police department, and it also can handle EMS, emergency medical dispatching as well.
I'm sorry, is this through the sheriff's department?
The sheriff's
Okay.
department, yep. Yep, so the majority of the funds that are in that account is for that, and what you see for an increase of that is just the contractual increase for that agreement that we have with the county. Additionally, as far as personnel services, historically, prior to me becoming chief, the emergency management was fully funded through a grant that was supplied to us through Holtec or the Pilgrim Nuclear Power Station. With its closure, we had to come up with a solution to keep this funded because his function is not just the power plant, it's multifaceted, hazard mitigation for the entire town for any type of natural or man-made emergency that might strike the community. So over the years, we've been doing 10% increases so that we weren't hitting the budget all at once with the salary line item. So monies that we have left over in that account are paying a salary, and then each year we're increasing it by 10%, and that's what you see reflected here as a continuation of that plan. And then some addition to his departmental equipment, and that was increased mainly. There's a lot more use with the EOC these days and the community center. We are sharing the space now with the police department, used as their police substation for South Plymouth. So we have a lot more foot traffic for those public bathrooms and the public areas within there. And also we have the voting that occurs down there several times a year. And also the EOC has been used as a regional training center from anywhere from the federal government and the Coast Guard coming in and running exercise out of there, to us running our own exercises as the town, hosting different events and training opportunities for different departments within the town as well. So we just needed to increase that budget a little bit to account for the increased maintenance and cleaning costs.
Any questions, Mr. Dunn?
I had a question. Where's the comfort dog today?
I-
Couldn't have brought the dog?
If I had the dog, I would bring it. I go February 10th through the 24th, and then I come back with the dog.
Awesome.
I have 3 golden retrievers at home that I certainly could have brought all 3 and let them loose.
It would have been fine. We're dog people.
Mr.
So
Howard?
to
Oh,
touch
I'm
upon
sorry.
that, so this is an initiative that Chris brought to us, and he said, hey, I'm a Monday through Friday employee. I know that the police department has a fantastic comfort dog program, and we wanted to be like them. No, we wanted
Met
to
her, yeah.
to fortify that, and we
Want to expand the outreach to all the schools, because the other 2 are primarily at the high school. So, with having the access to the other 13 schools within Plymouth, it brought about a large opportunity to get them on a revolving schedule, and so the kids in those schools can have the benefits as well.
I did see Officer Island with the comfort dog on Halloween. It was a big hit. The Halloween street downtown. So
Yeah, no, Sasha and Baja at the 2 high schools have been an amazing success from everything that I hear as well.
Okay, Mr. Howard?
Okay, but looking at the department equipment, the comfort dog line item appears to have been struck by the select board.
Yeah. and
Can you
it's-
address that?
It's not, so that was, what was taken out of that was a small stipend to offset some of the costs for the handler, being Mr. Horvath. And speaking with the town manager, we're going to identify another funding source for that.
So will that be in either the fire or emergency management
We'll-
budgets, or?
I'll probably use one of the revolving funds to be able to fund that.
Thank you.
No questions for Mr. I just have a question about, so when you mention the county, I'm assuming it's the state through the sheriff's department?
Correct,
Which is the state funded?
correct.
Okay. Yeah, and I think the comfort dog is fantastic, and not just for the schools. I'm assuming for any emergency, any, major fire or,
And
where
that's,
there's loss.
go ahead.
Yeah, so besides the children, the other main focus is the fires that I go to in my role as emergency management are for when people are going to be displaced. So people are going to be displaced. Housing is now an issue. That is when the benefit of a comfort dog is obviously apparent, as well as opioid overdoses where adolescents, teens are involved, and the comfort dogs are in the schools. It's another asset. It's another community resource.
Do you also work with the Plymouth County Outreach?
The comfort dog program,
Yeah.
we're
Or-
in
or-
talks.
You're in talks, okay.
Yep, it's a police DOJ grant. So I met with their leadership 2 weeks ago, and they're trying to see what they can do with emergency management and fire department.
That's fantastic.
Yep.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Do I have a motion for emergency management?
So moved.
A second, Mr. Howard?
Second.
Okay, and Mr. Dunn?
yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Pizarro?
Yes.
Mr. Lally? Yes. And myself, yes, is unanimously passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
I keep passing over, I'm sorry. I'm sure you are.
You've moved down.
I
the
know, you've
alphabet.
moved down the alphabet. You're after R now. Okay. So Harbor Master. And just for the record, if you could identify yourself.
Absolutely. Chad Hunter, Plymouth Harbor Master.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the time this evening or late afternoon. So I'll give you just a quick overview of the Harbor Master and what we do. Harbor Master is a division of the police department, and we're responsible for harbor operations, search and rescue, maritime enforcement, law enforcement, cruise ship management, which is new, project oversight, development, shellfish aquaculture for the town. Harbor Master Division is responsible for over 37 miles of coastline, extending about 3 miles east into Cape Cod Bay, and over 365 ponds. Harbor Master Division has 4 full-time employees, myself as Harbor Master, and 3 full-time assistant Harbor Masters. This year, we are requesting an additional full-time assistant Harbor Master, which I'll get into, due to the increased workload with the ACL cruise ship and the long-term 10-year contract that was signed by the town. Part-time Harbor Master admin and seasonal Harbor Master assistants, usually about 10 to 12, augment the full-time staff during the busy boating summer season from July till about September. The division provides 24-hour response year-round to calls for service by maintaining duty hours and on-call response. So to this year's budget, we did have a slight increase for FY '26, about $31,613. This increase includes a minimal increase in wages due to OPI and SEIU contractual obligations. That's $7,613. We had one increase in operational expenses, which is $10,000 for mooring software, which we're trying to address one of the select board goals and priorities that they've laid out. And the other is increase in departmental equipment to replace our police portable radios. Can you hear me? Okay. So they upgraded the police frequency to digital, and some of the radios that we have existing, we found out we're unable to upgrade them, so we don't have communications on those radios, so that's something that needs to be fixed. The 2 new initiatives that we have, I mentioned the new Assistant Harbor Master. As the town, we obviously had a trial season, let's say, this past summer, where ACL visited Plymouth 25 visits. At first, there was a lot of concern surrounding the cruise ship coming to town. I'm sure everybody's probably aware how that would affect the town, town residents, more importantly, commercial fishermen and pier access. So we were able to get through this season with minimal interruptions. Everything worked out really well. So we've kind of put those concerns to bed. Those 2 uses can coexist and get along in the very similar space or close to each other. And we were able to do that and maintain good working order on the pier. That was a little labor intensive. Obviously, we had to assign staff to the pier, especially when lobstermen were putting all their gear in the water, and very busy, active time on the pier to make sure there's pedestrian safety there, but also to make sure that the commercial fishermen have access. So we were able to accomplish that. The town did sign a 10-year contract with ACL, so this will continue. And for next year, or this upcoming summer, they booked 38 visits, and the contract allows them up to 50 per year. So we believe in '26, they'll probably be here about 48 visits. So, we're just kind of building that out and really taking advantage of the harbor and what we can provide to them. But obviously, there's some increased workload in managing that. So this position, we did get somewhat creative in the sense that As part of that cruise ship contract, we're looking to set up a revolving account to help support this position. So what we did was we looked at our seasonal line item that we had for seasonal employees, understanding that if we bring on another full-time employee, we can cut back on some of the seasonal budget, which was right around $30,000. I think we went from 125 to 95, so you'll see a decrease there. And that's really to help offset this full-time employee. The other half of the salary will be coming from this cruise ship revolving account. The town did negotiate what we feel is a pretty good rate for dockage. For each visit they're here, they're going to pay the town $3,000 for each 24-hour stay. So out of that $3,000, $1,000 goes to the general fund, and $2,000 goes to the revolving fund to support the staffing, infrastructure improvements, any maintenance needed on the pier, the barrier system that we deploy to keep the pedestrians separated from vehicles. So we were able to kind of manage that in a way that we had a very minimal increase to the budget. The other new initiative we had was mooring software. That was an additional $10,000. We're really trying to, we have software existing now that it's one-off software. It was made for us about 15 years ago. Owner-operator, we got one person to call, and the concern would be if anything ever happened to him or he retires, we're not going to have any support. So we're looking to upgrade that software, make it more user-friendly from the mooring holder and maybe mooring holder applicant side of things, have more of an online presence, e-billing, trying to incorporate all of that into this. And we do have a couple of companies that we're looking at. Okay. And that's kind of, that summarizes just about everything. More than happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Okay, do we have any questions? Mr. Howard?
Chad, has Lynn Barrett approved the creation of the revolving account?
So we've met with Lynn a number of times, the town manager, myself, and Lynn, to talk about this account. It's probably going to be at the special spring town meeting as an article, hoping to capture some of the cruise payments that will be coming in before the new year.
Okay, great. Okay, if I may, through the chair.
Certainly.
I understand that you're working with Treasury on the mooring application system, is that correct?
So we've looked at a number of,
But you're working with the
yes,
town treasury
correctly.
group? Yeah, my concern is that there are other applications that the town already
yes,
has under contract that may be appropriate. So I hope that you'll consider the possibility of using existing software.
absolutely.
And again, one more through the chair, if I may. In your write-up, you referenced mooring permits on ponds and coastal areas.
Correct.
Can you explain that, please?
Sure. So to permit a mooring, a temporary structure for boats, floats, rafts that are floating in any of the town's waterways, any of the state's waterways, there's an application process or a permit process that you're supposed to obtain. In some cases, people, they're part of a larger DEP permit process, but for a boat mooring or a float or a raft that's bottom moored, they are allowed to permit that through the harbor master. So all of the moorings you have in the inner harbor here are a Chapter 91 10A permit, which is an annual permit that's renewed once they pay their invoice each year. We have a waiting list and a process for that, but one area that we have not done a whole lot with are the ponds. Ponds, coastal areas, so further down the coast that are not in the inner harbor here. And all of these structures should be permitted. In some cases, we get called in sometimes but neighborly disputes on ponds. You know, I don't want this here, it's in front of my house, so we get involved. And we sort of deal with those and let people know that these do need to be permitted. So we are looking to really get everybody into compliance. We would probably start with our largest great ponds, which are defined in DEP. There's probably about 10 that we would probably start with, and try to bring people into compliance. So A, we know what's out there. B, people have their structures permitted, so they're legal. And also have, I guess, some input as to, you know, if you're gonna put a 50-foot yacht, you wanna make sure you have more than a cinder block holding it. So there's some safety factor there as well, through that permitting process.
So this is a new initiative?
It is a new initiative, and we,
Have you made the community at large aware that you're going to be pursuing this?
we've talked about it a number of times over the years.
Has it been shared out with the public?
So it's not a new initiative. This is a state requirement that already exists. So we're not rolling this out as something new. This is really to not only permit really items that should be permitted already through state law. So
Okay.
it's not a new initiative. It's really just focusing on accomplishing some of those tasks.
So are you going to be comparing those that have already pulled the state permits to see who is not licensed under the state statutes?
So we can look through DEP's existing permits to see if that's already there. I mean, this obviously is going to take a number of years. Like, the first step would be outreach, to make sure people are aware of what we're doing, making sure they understand their responsibilities, and, you know, try and gather that data to start to narrow it down to, okay, we have permits on, you know, 100 of these, now let's start looking at the others that we don't know. So it's going to be a pretty exhaustive process. A lot of that, you know, summer months are when the ponds are active and there's moorings and boats out there to really work on this. So it is sort of twofold in the sense that the staff that are out there looking into these are also providing some pond patrol coverage, which is always in high demand in the summer.
We appreciate the harbor master when they come onto the ponds.
Yeah, yeah.
I think this will be a surprise to many of the public
Yep.
on the pond. So I do strongly advise you to communicate this
Yeah,
through
and
public outreach.
sure. I think a rollout, you know, making sure people understand, but this is an existing permit that they should be obtaining. So there's definitely going to be an education component and awareness component as we roll it out.
Thank you.
Okay, all set. Mr. Lally?
Sure, just, what do you anticipate the cost, or what is the cost of a pond permit versus, say, a permit in the harbor?
So right now we have, there's a $50 mooring permit fee, which is what the mooring holders in the harbor pay. That's their base fee. The moorings in the harbor then pay per foot on top of that, but the harbor itself is an improved dredged area where, you know, there's maintenance, we do maintenance dredging, and there's costs associated with that. So we anticipate they pay a higher rate, but the ponds would typically be the flat mooring permit fee, which right now is at $50.
Mr. Dunn?
Trying to figure out if I've been breaking the law for years while I'm here. What if, whatever. So does this apply to boats that would be moored off of like a beach
Correct. Yep.
in town? And so I'm supposed to be paying $50 right now?
You're supposed to be applying for the permit. Yeah,
Okay.
so it covers all waterways, and like I said, that's a Chapter 91 10A permit.
Good to know.
Well, for somebody like me who lives in Manamet, and we have beach access, there are a lot of boats.
Sure.
And, I mean, we had a summer home in
One's mine.
off of Manamet Beach Boulevard. And there were always boats moored
Yep.
right off the beach. But I would expect that without a permit and without knowing, without accountability, if those boats were to come off their moorings and crash into somebody's wall, into somebody's property, that, that would be a huge
And that
issue.
happens. We
And
get
which-
storms that
right,
pop up, and
right.
we have boats end up on the beach, capsized, fuel, and all sorts of things.
Or even, especially in a pond,
Yes.
that
correct.
I'm sure that happens. So, okay, thank you. And do we have any other questions for Mr. Hunter? Okay, with that, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve or recommend approval.
And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, we'll go to the vote. Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Howard,
Yes.
Mr. Lally,
Yes.
Mr. Pizarro,
Yes.
and myself, yes, and it passes unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we are on to revolving funds. First one being Plymouth County Outreach, which I already mentioned. And we will be getting, I'm sorry? I know, but that's on another sheet. I have to stay with my first purple sheet. Plymouth County Outreach, my favorite. It really is. This is what I did my capstone project on. So,
Hello again, Dana Flynn, Chief of Police. So pretty much year to year, you'll see my same request for the Plymouth County Outreach. The County Outreach is, again, a consortium of departments throughout, police departments throughout the county that provide services to those who are addicted to opioids or have had an unfortunate episode because of their use. What the program does, it provides counselors, if you will, to visit after incidents and offer them any services they may require or request. Their funding is, they receive funding through dues that each police department provides, $1,000 each per year. Plus, they have a vast availability of grant money available to them. The Plymouth Police Department, we do manage their funds, so we're responsible for paying their bills and whatnot. So this year, my request is to put the threshold of $40,000 for them. Typically, the expenses I see for them, they are for meetings, to provide refreshments, supplies for their outreach workers, uniforms, which really consist of typically jackets or light pullovers with embroidery and whatnot. So that's where that funding goes to.
are there any questions? Okay, and I don't have a question, I just have a comment that this is a fantastic project and a fantastic program.
Yeah, Chief
And-
Chief O'Terry and Chief Allen from the Bridgewater Police Department several years ago started this, and they've kind of made a continuation on the similar programs now nationwide that they're involved in. So yeah, they did a great job putting this together.
Yeah, and just to point out, it is, the counselors are former, are recovering,
Yes.
are
Yes.
in recovery, and the grief counselors have lost a loved one
Yep.
to opioid
So I think that's
addiction.
very helpful to the person seeking help, that
Yeah.
they're speaking to someone who has been there
Yeah,
and knows and can tell them there is a way out.
and that's huge. And just on a personal note, I have a sibling who's in recovery for alcohol abuse, and he is actually working towards becoming a counselor.
Very good.
And he said that's the key, because nobody else knows.
Nobody understands.
Nobody else understands.
Kudos to him.
Yeah, so that's, yeah, thank you. So do I have a motion?
So moved.
And actually, you know what, before I,
Yes. Chair,
yes,
we'll vote this under Article 2 of the annual town meeting,
okay,
which we hear next week. They're just here if you have specific questions that are department related, because it's a smaller group
perfect.
and easier to address.
Okay, perfect. So we'll just, does anybody have any questions about any of the revolving funds? Okay, so we will skip over the revolving funds and we will move to Mr. Gould. Mr. Gould, you can thank your associate, Mr. Hunter.
For the record, David Gould, Director of the Department of Energy and Environment. For our operating budget this year, there are really three main changes that you'll see aside from any contractual issues. The first being that we did reallocate $650 from uniforms. We still meet our contractual obligations there with the remaining funds, but we moved $650 from that line item to supplies, and that helps cover some of the inflationary costs that others have mentioned previously. We also have a departmental equipment request of $20,000. That is going to sort of be a phase two to a project we're working on right now, which is to continue the removal of red pine stands in town forest behind PCIS. United States Fish and Wildlife Service is helping us do that. They're contributing $38,000 for mechanical cutting and removal of those trees. And then the $20,000 that we're looking for is to do the phase two, which would be some prescribed burning. That would reduce first and foremost, reduces the fuel load, but it also has an ancillary benefit that we're interested in, which is providing more habitat back in the town forest. And then the last change that you'll see is a proposed new initiative, which is just increasing or reclassifying our proposed reclassification of an admin that we have to bring them from a C5 to an A5. They also do quite a bit of work on our beach staff, so they pay all the invoices for the beach, do all the payroll during the beach season. So we're proposing that additional 3% would come out of the beach revolving fund, so there's no impact with that change to the general fund. So those are the three changes that you should see in the operating budget.
Through the chair.
Yes. Mr. Howard?
Mr. Gould, how big is the area that's going to be worked in the town forest?
It's going to approach about 20 acres.
Is that directly behind PCIS?
So there is some land behind PCIS that is set aside as school property for future expansion if that were to ever happen. And then just beyond that, in the section of the town forest that abuts that school property, there's a remnants of old red pine stands that were planted there, plantation style. We've removed probably half of that, and there's still probably about half of standing dead. And we'd like to get rid of all of that and then do a prescribed burn afterwards.
Thank you.
Do I have any other questions? Okay, do I have a motion?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, we'll take a vote. Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Pizarro?
Yes.
Mr. Pizarro?
Yes.
Mr. Lally? Yes. Myself, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion carries. Okay. Thank you. Do we have any discussion from the public? Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Lally? Yes. Mr. Pizarro?
Yes.
Myself, yes. and we are adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.